From Caitlin Todd's unexpected Season 2 exit, to Mike Frank's brutal stabbing in Season 8, this is every major NCIS character who was killed off and why. NCIS has been on TV for 20 years now, and a lot of characters have been killed off in that time. While some characters managed to exit the series without dying, like Paulie Perrette's Abby Shudo, others haven't been so lucky. There were tragic deaths early on that no one saw coming, as well as heartbreaking moments in the past few seasons that changed so many storylines. In many ways, NCIS wouldn't be the show fans know it to be, were it not for one major character death that occurred early on. Yep, I'm talking about Sasha Alexander's Caitlin Todd. Caitlin Todd appeared in 50 episodes of NCIS, was one of the main characters of the show from the get-go, and became a fan favorite after episode 1. It was hard not to like the former Secret Service agent, and before Ziva David entered the picture, we had Todd's banter with Donoso to look forward to. But then, during the Season 2 finale of the show, everything changed, and Todd became the first major character death in the series. Todd was shot in the head by the show's villain, Double Agent Ari Hasawari. To make matters worse, Todd was shot in front of her team as she was responding to Tony. Talk about tragedy. Although many fans were shocked that Todd was killed off, it appeared that this was what the actor Sasha Alexander wanted. Alexander initially signed on to be in multiple seasons of the show, because she was a main character from episode 1. However, after production began, she realized just how time-consuming and difficult filming the hit TV show was, and decided to step away, resulting in the showrunners killing off her character. It didn't appear that Alexander hated her time on the show. Simply put, she just couldn't do it anymore. Unfortunately, Todd's death stuck, and there was no way it wouldn't. While Ziva David, the character played by Cote de Pablo, would arrive to replace Todd, and become a fan favorite in the process. Ziva too would also be killed off. Later, her character was brought back to life, and it turned out that she only faked her death. Even though she didn't return to the show in full capacity, fans enjoyed knowing that the character wasn't dead. This can't be said about Todd's death, as she remains dead without a doubt. The same goes for Lauren Hawley's character Jenny Shepard. Jenny appeared during the 3rd season of NCIS and quickly became a favorite, mainly because her storylines were gold. Returning as Gibbs' ex, having a tragic backstory? NCIS loves this kind of stuff, which only makes Jenny's death all the more tragic. In Season 5, director Shepard finds herself in a shootout where she dies, as do all the bad guys of the season. It was a tragic death at the time, but it also remains one of the saddest deaths in all of NCIS. Similar to Sasha Alexander, Lauren Hawley also decided to step away from the series. Hawley had begun to get bored with playing Jenny and wanted to try something new. The writers also decided that they needed another major character death, so suddenly director Shepard fit the bill. Even though Jenny only had a few seasons to really make her mark before her death, she did just that. So did Clayton Reeves, played by Dwayne Henry. Reeves was introduced later on in the series, and while he appears toward the end of Season 13, he didn't become a regular until the 14th season. We only got to know Reeves for 2 full seasons before his death in Season 15. But that was all we needed because God, was his death tragic. Fans watching the show live probably remember that fellow cast member Paulie Perrette was also leaving at the end of the season, because it was announced months before her exit. Millions of fans were sad and upset to see the beloved Abby go, and many were also worried that she'd be killed off. Luckily, Abby wasn't killed off, but Reeves was. In a major shocking moment, everyone was so concerned about how Abby Shudo would be written out of the show that nobody stopped to think if anyone else would exit the series. No one knew that Reeves' time on the show was coming to an end. So when he was shot and murdered after a mugging, fans were stunned. Reeves' betrayer, Dwayne Henry, was also surprised. According to Henry, the showrunners of NCIS didn't quite know what to do with his character. After head writer and former showrunner Gary Glasberg passed away, Glasberg created the character of Reeves, and without his guidance, writers were lost. So was Henry, and everyone felt that it was time to say goodbye to Reeves and kill him off. At the end of this season, fans had to say goodbye to both Reeves and Abby, which was a total bummer, because Reeves died trying to save Abby during this mugging. And because his death was so unexpected, many fans hold the character in high standing. even a few seasons after this death. While Reeves had time to make his mark in 2 full seasons, some major reoccurring characters managed to become fan favorites in only a few episodes. The character Emily Fornell, played by Juliet Angelo, is a great example of this. Emily was introduced as Tobias Fornell's daughter way back in season 11. Though she never became a full-time character on the show, she was seen enough over the last decade for fans to be interested to see where her story went. As Emily struggled with addiction, fans knew that her dangerous lifestyle could come back to haunt her and her father, and it did. Emily died off-screen in season 18 after relapsing and overdosing. Watching her father learn that his daughter died remains one of the all-time saddest moments in NCIS history. We don't know too much about why Emily was killed off, and neither does Angelo. It seems this was one of those times when the writers felt this is where her story needed to go, because it brings some tragedy to Fornell's character. And as it truly shook fans, we can't help but agree that the writers really knew what they were doing with this sad storyline. Emily's death was needed for the show, and as a reoccurring character that many fans loved, writers knew they could pull heartstrings by killing her off. The same can be said about the death of Gibbs' mentor, Mike Franks, played by Muse Watson. While Mike was first introduced in season 3, Franks went on to star in multiple episodes throughout the series, becoming a beloved character by many fans. Even though he wasn't in a whole lot of episodes, people just loved it when Franks appeared on screen. This made his death in the 8th season even more surprising to witness. Franks ended up being stabbed by the port-to-port killer. In one of the saddest episodes of the entire series, fans knew that Franks' storyline would likely end in tragedy after it was revealed that he had cancer. But seeing him go out violently instead was unexpected to say the least. And just as Emily Fornell was written out, so was Franks. After all, it's easier to kill off these smaller yet still important characters than it is the main ones. When it was first revealed that Franks was dead and would never be returning to NCIS, fans were stunned, and so was Watson. Although he didn't have any issues behind the scenes on the show, he clearly voiced his frustrations at being killed off. Luckily for Watson and fans alike, Franks returned to NCIS as a ghost that appears to help Gibbs. So even though Franks is dead, he still appears on the show, and almost appears more frequently as a ghost than he did as a real living person. But to be honest, we don't care, as long as we get to see Franks back on our screens yet again. Very rarely do shows allow killed-off characters to return in multiple episodes and seasons, and NCIS is no different, except when it comes to Franks apparently. Throughout its 20 years on TV, NCIS has managed to shock us with some of the biggest character deaths of all time. So from Franks' shocking stabbing to Todd's unexpected death, that was every major NCIS character who was killed off and why.